Hi, I'm Giovanna. I'm going to show you my absolute favourite way to use bananas on the barbecue. These are my barbecue banana and chocolate flatbreads with hazelnuts. These are a massive crowd pleaser, so click through to see the full recipe. First of all, you want to take 250 grams of 00 flour, so that just goes straight into the bowl. About a tablespoon of caster sugar. It's just to sweeten the dough up. It's just ever so slightly enriched. And then you just need around 7 grams of yeast. So this sort of amount for this amount of flour. And then a little pinch of salt. You want to keep the salt away from the yeast if possible. Just pop it on the other side. And then just make a little well and add 150 mils of warm water. Then you can just get involved and you're going to bring it together into a dough. It'll feel really sticky to begin with, and you don't want it too dry because the dryness will result in just sort of rock hard flatbreads. So just persevere with the stickiness. It will absorb into the flour. Once you've got it into a sort of vague dough, you can tip it out onto the surface with any remaining flour, and you're just going to give it a really good knead for about 5 minutes. This kneading process you can also easily do in a mixer with a dough hook, just on like a slow speed for slightly less time, because obviously the machine does a bit of the work for you. So once you've got your dough lovely and pliable and soft, it should feel like a cheek. You're going to add a little bit of butter, which enriches the dough, sort of like a brioche. So if you can just take small pieces of very soft butter, knead it in. So you're aiming for around 20 grams of butter for this amount of dough, but you want to do it in small amounts. You just want a really like rich, nice, kind of like sweetened slightly dough. So once you've kneaded all the butter in, you'll end up with a really soft, pliable dough. The butter makes it absolutely gorgeous to handle. Then you just want to oil very lightly a bowl where it has some space to rise, and then you're just going to put it in a warm-ish place to let it rise for around an hour and a half. If it's particularly warm, it will take less time. If it's not as warm, it'll take more time. So when you're barbecuing bananas, you actually don't want the super ripe ones. You don't want them to be completely green, but it's a bit easier if they are slightly underripe. They're easier to cut, and actually when you put them on the barbecue, it will replicate that kind of ripening process and you'll get that really rich, sweet banana flavour. The best way to do it is to cut them in half. So just chop off any sort of bigger top sections, and then it's not that easy to get them even, but try to go from the bottom around and try to keep it as even as possible so that you get 2 nice halves of banana like that. So when you're ready to barbecue, just pop your bananas in a tray. You can just barbecue them straight like this. They are sweet enough, but for this recipe, we are going to just coat them in a little bit of demerara sugar. So about half a tablespoon per banana. Sprinkle it over each one, and then what you're going to do, you're just going to let it sit there for at least 10 minutes, because if fruit will absorb it slightly, it will create this amazing sugary crust, and that's what we're aiming for. And then you're ready to barbecue your bananas. Okay, so once your bananas have had a little time to sit in their sugar and it's absorbed a little bit into the fruit, it's time to barbecue. So it's really important that you oil your grill first, otherwise they will stick. If you have a silicone pastry brush, you can use that. If not, just a little piece of tin foil, a little bit of oil. Don't worry if it flares up a little bit, that's totally normal. Just give it a good oil. So you want to start with the bananas cut side down, but you're only going to leave it there for a little while, and then we'll turn them over and do most of the cooking on the skin side, because the skin will protect and stop them from burning, and we're going to remove the skins anyway. So here we go. So this will literally only take a couple of minutes tops, and you want to keep checking on them because they colour quite quickly. We're only doing this to get that lovely caramelised sugar on that side. If we just have a little look. So once you've got a lovely char on one side of them, you can just turn them over. These have sat maybe for another five or 7 minutes, and you can see that they're starting to come away from the skins, and they've gone like really soft and very, very sweet inside. So we're going to take them off now. These are absolutely delicious just as they are. If you want to just eat them like this, sack off the flatbread dough. However, the flatbread dough is probably done proving by now, so we're going to set these aside and we'll start shaping the flatbreads. Okay, so we have our barbecue bananas. Our dough has risen beautifully. It's basically doubled in size. That's what we're looking for. So the first thing we're going to do is make our banana filling, which is essentially just the inside of the banana. So just take these, just make sure they've cooled a little bit first, and just scrape them out. They'll be really soft. And then we're going to give it a really good mash together. Just the back of a spoon is fine. Just want to make sure that that nice caramelized top has got all the way through the filling. So this will probably make about 4 decent sized flatbreads. So I'm going to tip this out, and I'll just give it a quick knock back. Really nothing too vigorous. And then just cuff it roughly into 4 pieces. You don't want to go too much smaller than this because you need to fill them, and if they're really small, it's going to burst out, and you don't want to lose your filling. So to shape them, get them into a rough circle just by pulling them around on a board with a cupped hand, and then give them a real good flatten. And then you will need to pull them a little bit to get them as flat as possible. Like that is ideal. A little spoon of your banana, and then I've got this really beautiful hazelnut spread. It comes in a tube. Any really good quality hazelnut and chocolate spread will do. There's lots of options on the Sous Chef website, but this is a really easy way to use it. It'll squeeze right out of the tube. So we're going to give it a really good squeeze of filling, and then bring each edge up and pinch it together kind of like a little sack. And then very gently squeeze it on this side just to seal it. Shape it into a vaguely round shape, and there can sit there like that. When you're ready to barbecue, everything's shaped, everything's good to go. First thing you want to do is just get a little bit of oil on these. Easiest thing to do is just to oil your hands, because you don't want loads and loads on there. You don't want it to fry, but you just want enough to stop it sticking. So you can do this for each of them. And then these can just go straight onto the barbecue. Now you don't want the barbecue super, super hot at the moment. So if you're using one of the griller tabletop grills, just keep the vents, I'd say, a third open, just to make sure it's not going too fast. You'll find that they colour quite quickly on the barbecue, so you just want to keep flipping them over. So let's have a look and see how these are doing. Yeah, nice. You want a little bit of char on them, and we're going to baste them in a second as well. This is literally just a mixture of butter and brown sugar, which has just been melted together. So I'm going to go ahead and baste that on, and it will melt down really beautifully. And in a minute, we'll flip it over, and that'll get a beautiful crust on it. The only thing you've got to be careful about is once you've flipped it, it's going to burn real quick. So once they are done, they've puffed up really nicely, you've got lovely glaze on the outside, it's time to take them off the barbecue. And then you do want to leave them for a couple of minutes, just they'll continue cooking, and also they'll be really hot. So just leave them for about 5 minutes, just so they're not going to cool down too much, and then you can split them open and eat them. These are brilliant as like a end of barbecue type thing, because the grill won't be quite so hot. Kids love them. They're a real crowd pleaser, and I think everyone's going to enjoy them.